Cool, guys. So today I want to talk about GESARA. I'm going to give you some background, right? So back in the 50s, in the mid-50s, there was an incredibly wealthy businessman, namely Howard Hughes, who was not part of the cabal, guys. And as such, he was very often refused contracts and other business dealings. And he started to feel that there was some nefarious stuff going on. So he obviously was extremely angered. He was kind of determined to then uncover who was responsible for scuttling all of his deals, etc. Right? So as the cabal, guys, has always operated in the shadows, using secret societies to hide their evil, it was literally impossible for him to uncover all of these secrets. So after trying normal tactics to uncover all of those hidden secrets, Howard Hughes then turned to using one of the oldest tricks in the espionage book. Namely, he employed hundreds of prostitutes to lure all the people that he suspected of scuttling his business, and he got them into bed, right? So it was from this info that he gathered, guys, that he began to uncover all the data that he needed to begin to understand all of these crazy secret societies, which were basically collectively working against him and all of his businesses. Guys, these were groups like the Masonic Lodges, the Illuminati, the Knights of Malta, the Bilderberg Group, the Council of 300, etc., etc. Right? So there's a heck of a lot of these secret organizations and societies out there. So over the years, the information that he gathered from all of these prostitutes' encounters was compiled, and he began to discover and build a deep understanding of all of these secret societies, guys, who were working in the shadows, not only to overthrow the governments of the world and take over all of big business, but what he discovered that really scared him was he discovered that there was a massive eugenics program. They were looking to reduce the world's population to a manageable level of around 500 million. The absolute scale and abject evil, guys, that this showed made Howard Hughes determined to protect humanity from these satanic monsters. And as he was probably as rich as some countries in the world, he then set aside a substantial sum of money, guys, which he used to fund an organization which we now call the White Hats. They started off as a very small group of determined heroes with massive funding from Howard Hughes, and their prime role was to fight for the freedom of humanity. Over the years, this group has grown substantially, and it's now estimated that they are around 8,000 strong. These very brave people, guys, have had to fight in the shadows, as you can imagine, because the only way to defeat these monsters was to do it in secret, to do it in a clandestine fashion. So the reason that they had to do this, guys, was the cabal ruthlessly murdered anybody who they saw as being in their way towards absolute world domination and reducing the world population to that crazy 500 million. How are they going to kill those 7.5 billion people? This group, guys, has been fighting tirelessly on behalf of humanity since the mid-50s. JFK was part of the group, and as you know, guys, how things ended for him. It appears, guys, that President Nixon was also not the bad guy that he's portrayed to be either. It appears that Nixon was also a white hat, and he was fighting to reveal the evil that the cabal was orchestrating on humanity. His actions obviously got the attention of the cabal, who then nefariously got him removed from office. Reagan was then the next president, guys, to try to help humanity. But as he was not an insider within the White Hats, he did not have all the info on the cabal required to understand exactly how devious they were, to understand that you need to do things in a very clandestine fashion, etc. So because he wasn't an insider, his effectiveness was pretty limited, and his actions didn't result in the kind of success that he could have had he had the backing of the White Hats. The cabal, guys, who was responsible for the Iran-Contra affair, was something that was business as usual for them. They did that every day. But they exposed that deal to try and take Reagan down. Guys, Reagan had no inkling of what the CIA was up to, as they are, as you know, they're all part of the cabal. The Iran-Contra affair, guys, was, as I said previously, it was just business as usual for the CIA. But they attempted to use it to crucify Reagan, but fortunately, it failed. Right, so after that failed, they then warned Reagan on a regular basis to start towing the line, and as you know, he didn't. The cabal then tried that unsuccessful assassination attempt on Reagan. Because from that moment onwards, Reagan lived in fear around that unsuccessful assassination attempt. He didn't know who you could trust in his Secret Service, etc. And so although he didn't reveal anything publicly, he did, however, drop a number of hints throughout his presidency, revealing info on non-terrestrials, on the cabal and their operations, and a lot of other evil things. But it was done very subtly. You've got to watch it. So how was GESARA born? So in the mid-70s, guys, the Federal Land Bank was illegally foreclosing on a huge amount of farms in the Midwest of America. Their modus operandi was to defraud these farmers, steal their land, all with the support of the Federal Reserve. The class action suit that they brought against the bank was called the Farmers' Claim Program. Prime Creator works in very mysterious ways, and I believe that he created the perfect storm for defeating the banksters when Roy Schwasinger inherited his father's farm in 1978. Roy Schwasinger, guys, fortunately for humanity, was a retired military general, so that he had the kind of clout and connections in the military needed to drive all of these cases through all these captured courts, right? The bank was basically foreclosing on the farm that he just inherited after his father's death. Guys, as you can imagine, this angered him, and he decided, hey, I'm going to do something about it. There was a hidden clause, right? So the reason the bank could foreclose on his father's farm was that there was a hidden clause within the loan agreement, which his father had unfortunately signed, which stated that on the death of his father, the farm belonged to the bank. It's ridiculous. So Roy Schwasinger then filed a class action lawsuit in the Denver federal court system against the banksters, because that's fraud. Guys, as you know, the cabal is entrenched in every level of government, every level of the judiciary. And as they were so well entrenched in the judiciary, his claim was very quickly dismissed. This, again, as you can imagine, angered him terribly, and he decided to invest the remainder of his life into discovering exactly how the incredibly devious banking system worked. As his investigation progressed, because of his position, he was a retired general. He was then given a contract by the US Senate and later the US Supreme Court to investigate all of this banking fraud that was going on. But an unfortunate thing that happened because of working with the Senate and the Supreme Court is they placed him under a strict gag order, and as such, he was unable to reveal anything publicly that he discovered. But he wasn't going to stop, right? So to circumvent the gag order, he privately started sharing his knowledge with other high-ranking officers, because he was a retired general, so he had the connection to those generals. So he started sharing it with the generals in the US military. These generals and other very powerful people, I suspect, guys, that these were all white hats, right? Then brought a class action lawsuit against the federal government. So, guys, I'm not going to bore you with all the details of all the lawsuits which led to the successful outcome in the Federal District Court in Colorado, as I've attached a very detailed PDF document in the comments below this video. You can read through it. It's a very substantial document, right? The farmers, even though, guys, they had their land returned, decided to sue the banks for damages, right? This case evolved and became known as the farmers' class action lawsuit. As the farmers involved in the case were targeted, guys, as you can imagine, the cabal's in every level of government. So they were targeted by the IRS, they were targeted by the FBI and other government organizations. They had Roy Schwasinger and other generals, active generals, actually sit in the courtroom during the proceedings and say, hey guys, you better make this and do this right. This tactic worked, guys, and they won their case, which was fantastic for humanity. With all the info gathered and the court cases won, Roy Schwasinger then brought a case before the US Supreme Court in the early 90s. Almost unanimously, the Supreme Court found that all the farmers' claims were valid and that the banks were indeed defrauding the farmers. With the help of covert congressional and political pressure, and because of his military connections, the help of Delta Force troops who were present in the Oval Office at the time of signing, George Bush signed an executive order on October the 23rd, 1991, accepting the federal government would settle any claims with the farmers from that moment going forward. This executive order and the persistent actions of General Roy Schwasinger resulted in the birth of GESARA. So since about 1994, around 1994, the USA military has been actively involved in pushing GESARA through the corrupt legal, legislative, government, judicial system in the US. In about 2000, a group of Special Forces troops went to the Oval Office and encouraged Bill Clinton to sign an executive order actually finally making GESARA official. After the signing, the wheels began turning and it was planned to reveal GESARA to the public on the 12th of September 2001. We all know what happened on the 11th of September 2001. Guys, 9/11 was an inside job by both the CIA and Mossad to stop the announcement of GESARA, or GESARA as it was at the time. Building 7, which was never hit by a plane, had to implode as it was the place where all the documents relating to the announcement of GESARA were housed. Justice Roberts, guys, who unfortunately is a very captured member of the cabal, then placed a gag order on anything related to GESARA and revealing anything around GESARA. So as you can imagine, guys, the white hats and the generals who forced Bill Clinton to sign the executive order did not go quietly into the night. They then began a process which is described in detail in a second PDF document, which I'm also going to place in the comments below. GESARA has, over the years, guys, morphed into GESARA. So GESARA was national, which was basically just for the USA. And then over the years, it's obviously morphed into GESARA. GESARA, guys, stands for the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act. The military generals, supported by the White Hats, then accelerated their plans to remove the illegitimate government from the USA and other countries around the world. These plans included working with the governments and leadership of Russia, China, India, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and a number of others. Together, they created a unified plan to defeat the satanic cabal. This included asking Donald Trump to run for president of the USA. And then using a quantum computer, guys, they were able to eliminate the cheating in the 2016 election to ensure that Donald Trump won the election. Donald Trump then acted very quickly after his inauguration and he went on a world tour. He visited Saudi Arabia where he used evidence of pedophilia to oust the sitting king and replace him with the crown prince. He then, on that same tour, he then visited the Vatican where he used the same disgusting material regarding serious pedophilia committed by the Pope and his cardinals to force the Pope to release a massive amount of gold which is held under the Vatican, and it was given back to its rightful owners. He then continued on his tour and he visited the Queen of England where he produced a similar dossier on pedophilia relating to disgusting acts carried out by most of the members of the royal family. This forced the Queen at that time to concede to Donald Trump as well. Guys, I could go on and on, but I'm sure that you get the picture around why GESARA will be implemented this time around. The White Hats have implemented an incredible plan to occupy the office of the President of the USA. Then once in power, they utilize the evil, satanic, depraved pedophilia activities of the satanic cabal to force all of the main players to concede. So let's now answer the question, guys. What is GESARA and why should I care, right? So GESARA, guys, as I said before, is the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act. It's a new system for managing all financial transactions, money creation, money distribution, and very importantly, guys, it's all about a global prosperity program for humanity, which is going to alleviate poverty, famine, all suffering on our planet. It's effectively, guys, an incredible new positive system which will support humanity to escape the clutches of the cabal. Once it's fully implemented, it'll bring the end to poverty, hunger, debt, war, and guys, it'll basically usher in an amazing time of prosperity and peace for all of us. Let's talk about just quickly how it's going to be done, right? So let's talk about money creation, right? So all the criminal fiat money in circulation will be replaced with asset-backed currencies. This means, guys, there'll no longer be inflation as the countries can't just print money whenever they want to. I don't know where you are, but during that corona hoax, they printed the equivalent of 30 years worth of money. Imagine how inflationary that would be against any economy, right? So the supply of goods and services will never be greater than the asset-backed supply of currency, and therefore we'll never ever have inflation going forward. The other thing that's also going to happen is there's going to be a global currency reset. All world currencies will be revalued so that they'll have an equal value. We're going to have an equal playing field, right? Let's talk about debt, right? All debt, especially death pledges or mortgages, are illegal. This is a bit of a controversial issue, so I'm going to try and deal with it sensitively, right? Debt forgiveness comes with a few challenges, right? The first one is, how do you forgive debt without discriminating against anybody? So for example, right, say people who've lived for years above their means and bought holiday homes, third homes, fourth homes, etc., should all their mortgages be forgiven? Guys, I think it would be very unfair for those people who've been very credit shy to not receive any benefits, and those who've just used credit left, right and center and have multiple mortgages have all their mortgages settled. I'm not sure how debt forgiveness is actually going to be affected, but there will be some kind of debt forgiveness, guys, of all this ridiculous fiat debt. Let's talk about income taxes now. So income tax, guys, I'm not sure if you know this, but income tax is illegal and will be replaced by a flat sales tax of about 14%, only charged on non-essential goods. The privately owned receivers of revenue worldwide, guys, will be abolished and will be replaced by a small organization who'll manage this very simple 14% sales tax operation. We'll then introduce a new financial system. I'm not sure what it's going to be called, but just for ease of use, I'm going to call it the quantum financial system. Is going to manage and facilitate all financial transactions. The QFS will immediately pay sales tax at the time of purchase, guys. So it'll no longer even be necessary to submit tax returns anymore. How cool is that? Let's talk about natural law, or what some people call common law. I'm going to refer to it as natural law. I made a video on it recently. Natural law, guys, will be reintroduced to replace the current criminal admiralty law that we live under. Instead of all ridiculous regulations imposed by the satanic cabal and their minions on all of us, these ridiculous rules and regulations have gradually eaten away at our freedoms, guys. We'll instead follow one simple adage in the future: do no harm. No more, no less. Then let's talk about the election of leadership, etc., right? Governments, guys, worldwide will be replaced. Now, I'm not sure what we're going to call them. I'm going to call them councils of wisdom, just for ease of use, right? The election of these leaders, guys, will occur within 120 days of the official announcement of GESARA. During this 120-day transition period, I believe that will be led by carefully selected, highly conscious beings who will only have the best interests of humanity in their hearts. Then, guys, there's going to be amazing release of a whole lot of prosperity funds around the world. These prosperity funds, let's call them share the wealth prosperity programs, will be introduced to support the redistribution of all the stolen wealth that's been stolen over the years from humanity. Let's just say, guys, in a nutshell, the introduction of GESARA will usher in a new period of incredible prosperity for everyone. May I be as bold to suggest that this is the beginning of the 1,000 years of peace and prosperity spoken about in so many religious texts out there?